How's it going, guys? We're back with another awesome video. This time, we're going to be checking out a super quick history of Australia, and the original channel is Mr. History. So make sure you check that out. The link to the original video will be in the description section down below, as always. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this and find out a super quick history of Australia. I do know Dutch people discovered it, colonized by the English. It's about it. Kangaroos, right? I know that much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mr. This is Oceania, and here is Australia, as if you couldn't tell. Now then, let's flick our way through its history, shall we? The first inhabitants were the Aborigines, who migrated there from India via Southeast Asia in the late Pleistocene era. The Aborigines spread over the land and were separated into around 250 different tribes, each with its own...
So yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't necessarily founded or discovered by the Dutch. The Aborigines were obviously there first, right?
Aborigines spread over the land and were separated into around 250 different tribes, each with its own language and traditions. The Aborigines hunted many native megafauna to extinction. Lots of those animals, such as this hippo-sized wombat, may have contributed to the monster stories in Aboriginal mythology, known as the Dream.
Okay.
The Aborigines were masterful hunters and trackers and storytellers, and their distinctive music and art style is unique and immediately recognizable. However, it should not be naively assumed that prior to the arrival of Europeans, the Aborigines dwelt in a paradise of blissful harmony. Wars and clashes with enemy tribes were common. Staunch belief in superstitions stifled progress.
This is an
Wars
emu.
and clashes with enemy tribes were common.
Is an emu egg, guys?
Staunch belief in superstitions stifled progress, and being hunter-gatherers, tribes could not sustain large populations, so killing babies and the elderly was lawful and customary. Then, after thousands of years of almost total isolation, these things began poking around Australian shores. Europeans in the 15 and 1600s were energetically exploring the world, and Australia couldn't hide forever. The Portuguese and Spanish sniffed about up here for a while, but they didn't see anything of value in Australia and thus didn't bother settling. The Dutch explored and charted the west coast of what they called New Holland, and Abel Tasman discovered Van Diemen's Land. It was called Tasmania later. Tasman saw nothing profitable there.
That's
Only
funny.
poor naked people walking along beaches who were apparently bad-tempered. So no one really bothered with Australia for a long time until the latter half of the 18th century, when the British came to believe that it had potential. This was the basis for the 3 voyages there by Captain James Cook, who explored the east coast and claimed it in 1770 for Britain, naming it New South Wales. Meanwhile, Britain lost its American colonies, and more land was wanted, especially as they could no longer send their convicts to America. So the
That's funny.
First Fleet set off and arrived at Sydney Harbour and established the first settlement with Arthur Phillip as governor. He was a good man who wanted peace with the natives even after they speared him, but the Aborigines were in no mood to welcome these outsiders. Matthew Flinders circumnavigated the continent and confirmed it was a giant landmass, and gave it its current name, Australia. The Brits then rolled up their sleeves and began establishing separate colonies and towns all over the land, and getting it all going wasn't easy. Disease and hunger and poor, thankless soil and disorderly, uncooperative felons made it a migraine of a sweat and blood-soaked struggle. Explorers like these fellows braved vast and unknown expanses, and more land was settled, and wool became the most lucrative export. And then, in the 1850s, gold!
Gold. Lots and lots of gold.
Yes, gold was found, and people even flocked from Europe, America, and China to get some. These were the frontier days of growing cities, gallant drovers, dusty swagmen, wistful bush poets like Banjo Pedersen, and fierce bushrangers like Ned Kelly. An Australian identity had been born, and in this spirit the different colonies united in 1901 in the Federation of Australia, with Sir Edmund Barton as first Prime Minister. But this spirit was also a wary one, and there were fears that the newborn Australian identity would be undermined by non-European immigrants, especially the Chinese. So the government passed the Immigration Restriction Act, or White Australia Policy.
White Australian policy. Wow. If that doesn't sound, I don't know.
To keep the country majority British. Now, there was a general view at the time that Aborigine ways would slowly die out. Thus, the government moved to cushion the fall by taking custody of Aborigine children from their mothers, presumably for their good. But, like with many government policies, it was a catastrophe, and the sorrows of these stolen generations is still felt today. And
Yeah, I heard about that. That's kind of messed up.
While we're on the topic of bad government decisions, war! The First World War saw Australia send thousands of its boys to get massacred by the Turks at Gallipoli for no reason. Well, they did get a biscuit named after them. Their sacrifice is remembered every year on Anzac Day. The economy grew under the popular Billy Hughes, and though the Great Depression hit hard, Australia still managed to win cricket matches and build the Harbour Bridge. In World War II, Australians constantly feared a Japanese invasion, and Japan indeed bombed Australia 97 times.
Wow, I did not know that. 97 times. I didn't even know they got bombed once during World War II. Wow.
And killed many. As beleaguered Britain couldn't offer any help in the Pacific, John Curtin made an alliance with the United States, and General MacArthur used Australia as an important base. US and Australian forces defeated Japan in the Kokoda Track Campaign in the jungles of Papua, and closer American ties were formed after the war under Ben Chifley. As a result of this, Australia fought in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars, which coincided with mass migration of Southern and Eastern Europeans into Australia. Robert Menzies' leadership oversaw a growing economy, and more change was on the way. The White Australia policy was officially ended by the 1970s, and immigrants from all over, especially Asia, began coming to Australia. Since then, despite hiccups, Australia's economy grew more. Gun control was enforced, various schemes to help Aboriginal communities were implemented, Australians joined the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and politics became a tiresome game of switcheroo. Anyway, Australia is a country that was built not very long ago, but speedily became one of the best and richest in the world. Aussies have given the world a lot of science, music, entertainment, and sporting stars. But what does the future hold for Australia? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see what we got here in the comment section. Finally, a good fun video on Australia. It's almost accurate, especially the bits about the first people. It says, but there were no U.S. troops on the Kokoda Track. The Kokoda Track was entirely Australian. Okay. With many Aussie senior officers literally disobeying orders from generals. But there were no U.S. troops. Okay. Let's see. Excellent says. I'm going to show it as a precursor to learning the song "We're Australian." Okay, so as Australian, 100% true, it says. Yeah, so it must be pretty good. It is very similar to U.S. history, as it says right here. Yeah. This channel's from Australia, it says on the About page. Okay. Well, anyways, if you guys are into Mr. History, go check out their channel. As you can tell, I've already subscribed, so you should go subscribe to them as well. Subscribe to my channel. Also, hit like if you enjoy my videos. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, later. Have a super fun, awesome day.